That's why you don't throw, though.
I mean,
that's why you don't throw.
It is why you don't throw, but it was a perfect call.
It was, but all three quarterbacks said prior to the play call, run the ball. The only way Atlanta gets the ball back is if you put the ball in the air. I thought they were going to run twice. Atlanta had no timeouts. Worst case scenario, Kirk Cousins has 95 yards to go for a game-winning score. Sal Paolantonio was there, ESPN national correspondent. What did you think was going to happen prior to the third down call, Sal?
Well, I'm going to give you actual words instead of onomatopoeia. I'm throwing that out there for my English teacher. Ooh, I love that. I was about 2 minutes in. I was waiting for actual analysis after he dropped the ball. But I thought they should have run the ball. It's pretty clear. So let's look at the play-by-play, Dan. 2nd and 6 at the Atlanta 13. You bring in Johnson as the eligible tackle. Barkley goes off left tackle, gains 3 yards. So the last play that they ran as a run, they gained 3 yards. Now it's 3rd and 3, and Atlanta has already just burned their last timeout. It's 3rd and 3 from the 10. Remember, your last running play, gain 3 yards, and you only need 3. I think you got to call a run play there. I really do. And then if you don't get it, you run it again on 4th down. Because, they've been pretty good running the ball on 4th down. Tush push, brotherly shove, whatever you want to call it. They were aggressive early in the game on 4th down, didn't get it. And so I don't know why you wouldn't be aggressive there. This is why you paid Saquon Barkley. I know he's good out of the backfield. He does have some drops in his career, but you load it up, and it doesn't really matter. You can't make the excuse, well, they were getting funky inside and loading up between the tackle box. Just run it at them and take the time off the clock. And if you don't get it, like you said, now he's got to go 90 yards with no timeouts. It's much different than going 70 yards where you can spread it out and get the ball out quickly. You can have some boot action. You can move around in the pocket. When you're 1st and 10 from the 10, you have much less room to maneuver. I think, players are going to drop passes. Players are going to fumble. Players are going to throw interceptions. Those are physical mistakes that you're going to expect at every level of football. But at the NFL level, you can't have your coaches making mental mistakes like that.
I think there was part of the game that I thought was a glaring issue with the Eagles. They didn't put any pressure on Kirk Cousins. And Kirk Cousins has no mobility. As you said, he showed you his 6-inch scar from, his surgery in the offseason. So he doesn't have mobility. I don't know why even that last drive, they hit him twice in the game after 31 pass attempts? I mean, that's inexcusable for an Eagles defensive line.
Well, first of all, they don't really have a pass rush right now. That's clear. Bryce Huff, they are trying to play him on 1st and 2nd down against the run. And he's getting worn out. He's getting blown out. Post-game last night, a lot of the Eagles players who were on locally here were talking about Bryce Huff not setting the edge, getting blown out in run defense. So he was never used like that in Robert Saleh's defense with the Jets. And now he's being asked to do that. He's really being asked to do something that he's never done in his career. The other thing is the Vic Fangio system. You know it well, Dan. He's going to drop 2 safeties back. He's going to play, cover underneath, man zone, whatever it is, and then he's going to rush 4 most of the time. In his career, especially last year when he was in Miami, he was in the bottom 5 of the NFL in calling blitzes. But Bill Polian once said to me, when he would interview a defensive coordinator, he would say, show me your 3rd and 6th blitz in the 4th quarter. Show it to me. What is it going to look like? How are you going to get to the quarterback in the critical moment of the game on third down, especially when you're beyond the 50 in the fourth quarter and they're driving to try to win the game? Show me that blitz. And if they didn't have that blitz, he wouldn't hire the guy.
The Eagles' upcoming schedule, they're at New Orleans.
Yep.
At Tampa.
Yep.
Bye week.
Dan, they're looking at some two tough games. So let's take New Orleans first. New Orleans has had a voodoo on the Eagles for a while. You know that. They've had trouble going down there, even when they were in the heyday of the post-Super Bowl. Right after they won the Super Bowl, they went down there and they couldn't win, and they got bounced out of the playoffs. New Orleans has come into Lincoln Financial Field, upset them. They've always had problems with Sean Payton. They've always had problems with the New Orleans Saints. I'm just putting it out there. That's a tough game. I just was in Detroit, and I watched Baker Mayfield go into Detroit, an 8-point underdog, with his defense depleted, without his starting right tackle, win that game. The Bucs are playing with a lot of moxie. And if you're looking for a team that can throw the ball to a lot of different components, a lot of different options with Evans and Godwin, that's a team that could give the Eagles problems like they did last year. These are two tough games. And Dan, you don't have A.J. Brown, your best offensive player, in these two games. He said that last night to Lisa Salters. It's going to take a couple of weeks. And, boy, that was a wow. That was a big wow. So these are two tough games for this football team.
Well, they could lose these two. Then you have a bye week, which is the last thing that you would want.
Yeah.
And I don't know how tenuous this situation is with Nick Sirianni, but I'm guessing the seat will be warm. But I don't know if they're an in-season type of organization. They would go, we have to make a change. I know it's only 2 games. Now we're projecting to 4 games in a bye week. But once again, this is a team that should be competing to go back to a Super Bowl.
And this is Philadelphia. We're not irrational here.
Yeah, of course.
We're not hot-headed or mercurial here, Dan.
No, you're not. No, you're not. Hey, I did think of you. We're talking to Sal Paolantonio, ESPN national correspondent covering the NFL. The Bryce Young situation. I go back to draft night when you came on during the draft. Even before the draft, I think you said, whoever Carolina takes, they are starting the season. And we were surprised that they would make that declaration already without really seeing who they have, to support if it was C.J. Stroud or Bryce Young. Your thoughts when you heard Bryce Young was being benched?
My thought was you had C.J. Stroud on your racket, and you should have taken him. It was something that was discussed. There's no question about it. And, this is what we do. You Monday morning quarterback, big decisions like this. When you get it wrong at the top of the draft with your quarterback, it sets you back 3 to 5 years. It just does. Now, Andy Dalton is serviceable in the interim if you can try to fix Bryce Young, but I don't know if he can play at the NFL level. And I said that when he was drafted. I was very skeptical about it because of his size, his ability to see over the rush, his ability, you have to create passing lanes like Sean Payton did for Drew Brees. I mean, Saban gave up on Brees in Miami because he didn't think he was big enough. Obviously had that injury, but still. And Sean Payton designed something that turned him into a Hall of Fame quarterback. And I'm not going to compare Drew Brees to Bryce Young, but what I'm saying is, like you said before, and I was listening to you, you have to have everything in place for a young quarterback. You have to have the right options and components at the offensive line position and the wide receiver position, something like what the Bears are doing with Caleb Williams. And then coaching and design matters. They matter. And so you have to have that. And now he's on his second play caller with Dave Canales, who did a pretty good job with Baker Mayfield last year. So I don't know. I don't see teams trading for Bryce Young. I mean, what would you give up for Bryce Young?
Well, Dallas gave a fourth-round pick for Tre Lance.
Okay. Tre Lance is a different cat now. Tre Lance has got a big arm, and he's much bigger, faster, stronger than Bryce Young.
Wait, you like Tre Lance better than Bryce Young?
Absolutely, 100%. Yes.
Oh, boy. That's a hot take.
I do. Well, I think it's pretty clear. Yeah. I mean, Bryce Young needs a lot of coaching and time to learn. He's got to sit and learn.
Yeah.
And they've got to get stuff around him. But here's the thing, Dan. You got 9 0-2 teams in the NFL right now, including 3 teams that were clearly expected to be playoff teams: the Rams, the Ravens, and the Bengals. Last 5 years, teams that started 0-2 made the playoffs 5% of the time. 5%. So Carolina's got to refigure things and figure out, okay, what are we doing for next season? And there's some other teams like that. I'm not counting the Rams, Bengals, and Ravens in that category, but, it's hard to go to the playoffs when you start 0-2, and really, really hard when you start 0-3.
Great to talk to you again. Thanks for joining us, Sal.
Thank you, Dan.
That's Sal Paolantonio, ESPN national correspondent, covers the NFL for SportsCenter. Sunday NFL Countdown, NFL Live, and Fantasy Football Now.